For those of you who don't know or aren't familiar with Australia, in land mass it's about the same size as the continental United States, but with a population of less than 25 million, based largely in coastal cities across Australia. The larger cities are also the capitals of 6 states that make up the Australian Federation, together with a further 2 territories, including Canberra, the national capital. Melbourne is a city of some 4.6 million people and the capital of the southeastern state of Victoria. It is Australia's fastest growing city, driven by high rates of immigration, fertility and life expectancy. It's also highly diverse, with 40% of Melbourne's population born overseas, foreign born, compared, for example, to 29% in New York City. The population is expected to grow to around 8.5 million by 2050. Australia, a little bit different to the US in many respects, but our major public services and programs in education, in health, law and order and public infrastructure are concentrated at the state rather than a federal or local level. The growth projections for Melbourne mean that there's very substantial pressure on state and city spending right now, with significant investments in road, rail and other public infrastructure, a current feature of the political landscape and therefore also of our focus and activity at present. The preponderance of public institutions at the state level in Australia means that public integrity bodies are also generally established at the state level. So it is with my organisation, or the organisation I work for, I should say, IBAC as we call it, which is responsible for preventing, identifying and exposing corrupt conduct as well as police misconduct in Victoria. So we have a dual function. We are both the anti-corruption body for the state public sector, and we're also Victoria's police oversight body, and the police themselves in Australia are organised at a state level, so there's a very large state police force in Victoria. IBAC's the youngest of broadly similar anti-corruption bodies, are now established in each of Australia's states. We've been fully operational since early 2013. Our corrupt conduct jurisdiction includes state and local government, statutory bodies, the judiciary and the parliament, and covers some 325,000 employees. So very similar size to New York City in terms of our employee jurisdiction, if you like. Our police misconduct jurisdiction covers some 14,000 uniformed and 3,000 civilian employees of Victoria Police. That gives you a sense of our jurisdiction, a quick graphic there. When we were first established, there was widespread cynicism about how effective we would be as Victoria's first anti-corruption body, and that was largely to the restrictive nature of our investigative powers in addressing public sector corrupt conduct. Firstly, the definition of corrupt conduct in our Act was quite narrow and in essence was restricted to prescribed criminal offences without the offence of misconduct in public office. Secondly, the threshold for us to be able to commence an investigation was that the conduct in question had to be serious corrupt conduct and with no legislated definition of what serious meant. And there was also a requirement that we had to be reasonably satisfied, rather than reasonably suspect, that an offence had been committed before an investigation could commence. In fact, the definition, or the threshold in our statute at that time was that we had to be reasonably satisfied that corrupt conduct is occurring. So it had to be both present and there had to be a very high threshold for us to be able to commence an investigation. Moreover, unlike our counterpart police oversight and anti-corruption bodies in other Australian jurisdictions, IBAC lacks basic police powers of arrest, search and seizure, questioning or interviewing without summons, and has little or no standing in arraignment processes. So whilst the government of the day could point to our broadly significant powers, coercive powers of examination upon summons, confidentiality notices that we can issue, telecommunications intercepts under warrant, other forms of surveillance and the like, the specific restrictions in our Act initially constrained us very considerably.